Hey, this is Steve from Unexplored Films, and today we're going to try and recreate the backwards head effect as seen with Meryl Streep in the movie Death Becomes Her. Meryl Streep's character falls down the stairs and gets her neck twisted 180 degrees around the wrong way. For most of the scenes they filmed Meryl wearing a blue head cap and a prosthetic twisted neck, and she would perform the scenes walking backwards around on the set. Then they would film her head separately with her mounted on a rig in front of a blue screen. When these were composited together, it would look like her head was facing the other way. And they even included a shot where she twists her head back round the proper way. So as usual, we tried to come up with a way of creating something very similar to this effect using only the tools that we already had. And if you enjoy this sort of DIY filmmaking, why not check out our other videos and subscribe, and you'll get to see lots more effects and tutorials. The first decision we made was to avoid seeing the neck altogether by using a jumper with a high neckline. This meant we didn't need any prosthetics or anything like that. Next we talked about camera movement. Now the easiest way to film this is of course in a static shot, but we decided to try something a little bit more ambitious than this, especially as the shots you can see in Death Becomes Her usually involve a moving camera. We therefore decided to use our trusty camera slider, which is just a long rail that the camera slides along, to try and give us a tracking shot. We planned to film 3 shots. The first would be me walking backwards towards the camera, and this would be our master shot. The second shot would be me acting out the head movements against a blue screen, this time facing the camera. The third take would have no figure in it at all, and this would allow us to use any parts of the background we would need, as we knew the heads weren't going to line up perfectly on top of each other. The problem was though that the movement of the camera would have to be exactly the same every time, and we don't have the fancy motion control system that they were using in Death Becomes Her. This is called the VistaGlide, and it allows you to program the same movement to happen again and again for every take, and they used this in Back to the Future when one actor would play multiple parts. Now if you check out our clone video, you can see the last time we attempted some DIY motion control, where we tried to come up with a method of getting the camera to move in pretty much the same way each time. This time though, we hit upon the idea of using gravity. We set the slider with one end a tiny bit higher than the other, and this produced a very gentle incline which the camera could slide down. Our plan was that every time we would let the camera go, we would pretty much get the same speed and therefore the same shot. So once we'd worked out this DIY camera move, we then blocked the scene to match so that I would take a few steps as the camera tracks back. We began with the main shot where I walked backwards towards the camera, and we attached some white bits of gaffer tape to the back of my head as some basic camera tracking points. This was so that we would have a clear reference to track the movement of the head when replacing the head with the head facing the other way. So like in Death Becomes Her, we wanted to end this effect with the neck getting twisted back round the correct way, but we wanted to do this all in one take and then carry the shot on with my reaction. So for this reason we didn't put a blue cap over my head. Instead we decided we would just try and remove the head up to the point where the head turns round, and then we would use the real head from this same take. So as we filmed this take, I talked through the actions I was doing so that we could play this take back later and I could copy the movements exactly and get the timing right.
3, 2, 1, and stand, and moving, and go, and right foot, and left foot, and right foot, and stop, and hands, and head, and
Once we had a take we were happy with for the main shot, we then repeated exactly the same shot to get the blank background. For our third shot we added a collapsible blue screen behind me in the gap on the stairs, and I happened to have a blue top which matched almost exactly the correct colour.
I'm just trying to roll the top of this down in case I need more neck.
Our plan here was to be able to just remove the head from this take and attach it to the body in the other shot. The main thing I had to be careful of here was not to let my head go too far left or right out of the blue area. So once I'd worked out how to flip the choreography in my head from the first take and perform it the other way round, we were good to go with this final shot.
I looked that way last time, so I have to look that way.
Once again we played the recording back and I did my best to copy the movements and act the part of someone who's just realised their head is facing the wrong way.
And moving, and go, and right foot, and left foot, and right foot, and stop, and hands, and head, and
So once we had a take we were happy with, we quickly watched back a quick overlay of the takes just to check that we got what we needed. The best thing of course about filming the head in the same place as the body is that we had all the lighting and the shadows exactly matching from our location. So the first thing we did was drop our 3 takes into Adobe After Effects, and we named them Head Only, Body Performance, and Blank Background, and we stacked them on top of each other, and we used the audio to sync them up. So now we used Keylight to get rid of the blue background, and this did a pretty good job of leaving just the head visible. And if you want to learn about Keylight in more detail, check out our video on how to add yourself to movies. Once we had the head floating around where the blue screen had been, we could draw a simple mask around the head just to get rid of the edges of the shot that we didn't need. This gave us a rather funny floating head effect just walking through the doorway. And by switching on the body performance layer underneath, we could see what was required in order to make one head look like it was attached on top of the other. So you can see here that although the timing and the lighting match really well, the main thing is going to be matching the movement of the head to the body. This is where this effect becomes difficult because we're basically trying to line up 2 objects that are moving in 2 different ways. So to make life a bit easier, we decided to try and stabilize the head before trying to attach it to the body. So to do this, we went over to our tracker panel and click on Stabilize Motion and did some track points on the nostrils because those were visible the whole time. And After Effects went through and analyzed the movement, and this resulted in a much more stabilized version of the head. We can now see that the head is doing much less moving around on its own. So we used the tracking markers on the head to once again do the tracking, only this time we clicked Track Motion, and After Effects went through and analysed the movement. We could then create a null object, which is just an invisible thing that you can attach other things to, and we could apply the motion of the motion tracker markers on the back of the head to the null object. Now we could take our stabilized head layer and parent that layer to the null object. This then gave us a version of the effect where the head was basically sticking to the back of the head. And now the hardest part of this effect came, which was basically to do some manual adjustments to try and get the head looking a lot better when sitting on top of the shoulders. And we simply did this by keyframing the position and the rotation of the head to match what we thought would look good on top of the shoulders. This took a lot of trial and error, and we were basically just doing this by eye. Another method that might help lining up the head on top of the shoulders is to temporarily turn off Keylight, and you might be able to line up one set of shoulders on top of another set of shoulders. So we now needed to remove the original head from behind the new head that we've added in on top. So we drew a mask around this and changed the mask type to subtract, and this revealed our blank take of the stairs, which perfectly lined up behind because we had done exactly the same camera move. We then keyframed this mask to follow the movement of the head, and then made another mask for the shoulders so that these could sit in front of the new head, and we left this mask set as add. This meant that our new head could sit behind the shoulder layer but in front of the gap where the other head had been. We set the mask removing the head as quite a wide feather setting to give a nicer fade to the blank background behind, but we set the feather for the shoulders at a much smaller value so that it wouldn't look too soft. With both of these masks working together, you can now see this headless effect that this produced. And you can also see a faint round area where we are showing through to our other shot. And we think this is because the lighting was a little bit different in that one because I wasn't standing directly under the light and I wasn't casting shadows and reflections and all that sort of thing. So we actually just did a little bit of color adjusting on that take behind to make it match the master take. This now left the problem of the hands, which we wanted to interact with the head, and as you can see, the hands wander into the area that we have removed in order to get rid of the original head. So to bring the hands back, we drew a mask around each of the hands separately. This meant that we could now try and line up our new blue screen head with the hands that were actually touching the original head facing the other way. Finally, we pre-composed everything into a new composition and added some artificial camera wobble using the wiggle expression tool. This was because I thought any strange head movements that the head might make on top of the shoulders might be made a little less obvious if the entire shot was wobbling anyway. We then headed into Premiere and added some suitable sound effects for the neck cracking. So that was our budget method for trying to recreate this effect, and why not drop a comment below about what Hollywood effect you'd like to see recreated next. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Please give it a go, tell me what you think in the comments, and hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this. I have been Steve from Unexplored Films, and I'll see you next time.